Hi, my name is Melissa Galanti. Miami is situated in a vulnerable geographical position in between the Atlantic Ocean and the Everglades, with an extremely low-lying topography that averages only 6 feet above sea level. The region's flat and low elevation makes it exceptionally susceptible to flooding and sea level rise, particularly given its location on the southeastern coast of Florida, which is surrounded by water on all three sides. Miami's geological composition, primarily composed of limestone and situated on the eastern edge of the Florida platform, compounds its environmental fragility. The area has a subtropical climate in proximity to warm ocean currents like the Gulf Stream. While this does create an attractive environment and brings a lot of tourism to the state and the city, it does contribute to increased precipitation and storm intensity. These geographical characteristics and climate characteristics create a perfect storm for flooding risks, with rising sea levels threatening to overwhelm significant portions of the urban and suburban landscape. The region's rapid urbanization and continued development in flood-prone areas worsen the environmental challenges that Miami will see in the future and today. For our adaptation and preparedness plan, we want to look at environmental solutions as well as engineering solutions, as we do believe that these will work together to help prepare Miami as best as possible. Some environmental solutions we have identified would be starting off with green infrastructure, such as using rain gardens or urban forests in the city. So we want to combine nature and the urbanization that is going to continue to happen in a place like Miami. We also want to look into investing in mangrove restoration. We've seen that this is a natural buffer against storm surges. We also want to look into adding gumbo limbo trees, which help prevent flooding. We also will look into adding native plants throughout the city that will help prevent the damage from flooding. Looking at the changes to the built environment, we want to elevate roads and bridges, which can avoid the flood damage. We want to enhance the drainage with permeable pavements and also look into underground reservoirs. We do want to increase the amount of pump stations as well in the city overall to increase the efficiency and reliability. And then lastly, look at storage areas for stormwater in low-lying areas that would prevent the local communities from being affected.
Hi, my name is Taisha Tate. The next part of our plan is measurements to reinforce buildings and home. The first part is flood-proof infrastructure. What we mean by this is by having waterproof material, elevating the structures, and creating foundations for new builds. In addition to, we believe that policy change will ensure these changes can happen. The next part of our plan is to use renewable energy, such as solar panels and other forms such as wave energy. We believe by having these options, we will be able to prevent blackouts when there's storms, because oftentimes when there's storms, they have to cut the power so it doesn't electrify when the power lines go down. The next part is to provide incentives for homeowners to add and upgrade their structure to more flood-resistant materials and technology. Owning a home is very expensive, and making those improvements on those homes, even if it will benefit you in the long run, is not always in people's financial structure. So we believe by giving them incentives such as tax break or setting up something similar to how California has their solar panel program to get more homes to have solar panel energy, we would be able to help people make their homes more flood resistant. And the last part of our plan is updating building codes to consider future sea level rises and flooding risks. As time goes on and climate change becomes more severe, the floodplain maps that we have are becoming more and outdated, and more areas are becoming in the area for flooding. So we believe by having these building codes, keep that in mind when they're being created, we can prevent future homes from having to be built in areas that are prone to flooding. The next part of our plan is emergency evacuation plans. We believe by creating alerts similar to Amber Alerts, we will be able to get more people out, because not everybody is currently watching the news all the time. Some people are very disconnected. So by having that alert sent out to their phones, we believe we can let people know what is happening around them. The next is implement plans for tree management. As we've seen on the news multiple times, a lot of these homes get damaged when these strong winds come and rip trees, often not native to the region, tossing them around into homes, or the trees come tumbling down into homes. However, cutting down trees can be something that is very expensive, and not all homeowners have that ability to manage the trees around their property. We believe by having the city take on that responsibility, we can help more people save their homes during these severe storms. The next part is establishing clear communication protocols to ensure that residents are receiving accurate and effective information. The reason why is that a lot of people do not trust the news. In addition to with these storms, they change so quickly. A storm can go from being a category 4 to a category 3 to being back to a category 4 within a 5-hour span. So by making sure the people are getting up-to-date information, we can hopefully save more lives in addition to help save people's property. The next part of our plan is evacuation centers. Not everybody can afford to go to a hotel room when the storm comes. So by having these centers fully stocked of supplies and having personnel to run it, we can provide people with an alternative to waiting out the storm. In addition to, we want to make sure these evacuation centers have all the supplies they could potentially need, because we don't know how long these people could potentially be trapped there. And the last thing we want is for the supplies to run out.
Hi, this is Milena Barros. Some plans to adapt to risks would include delegating committees to focus on different risks that could occur. This can allow for greater resiliency in action when these kinds of risks do occur. Another idea we would have is to leverage diverse investors to invest in projects that will help the well-being of Miami. By involving these kinds of investing groups to finance projects, this would also give them a higher stake in projects, which will most likely make them more sustainable. To address public health awareness, we can provide hubs that provide resources for both mental and physical health. This includes all pre, post, and during extreme weather events. We can also create some kind of committee or task force that is focused on addressing climate anxiety and providing support or resources for residents that are coping with the stress from environmental stresses. Another idea would be to create elevated green spaces that could improve air quality, and this can also double and provide areas for physical activity and mental well-being. Looking at the long term, we have a couple of considerations. One would be to help with relocation for community members that are living in areas that will not be able to be saved or protected. Another consideration is to turn some of these areas into seasoning houses so that when hurricane season is taking place, people can prepare their property for the storm and then come back to check on it after the storm and to prepare it for the next hurricane.